Kanthapura, Chapter 9. When Bhatt heard of the Congress committee, he said to himself, "Now this is bad business." And seated on the veranda, he began to think and think. And the fair carts rolled by, and the dust settled down, and the noise of the snoring cattle comes from the wire. And the bats began to screech, and from the Babur mound rose the wailing of the jackals, and even the moon plumped up above the Kenchamma hill. And still Bhatt sat on the veranda thinking, there must be an end to this chatter. If not, the very walls of Kanthapur will crackle and fall before the year is out. What with his fastings and his looks, Murthy was holding sway over the hearts of the people. And even the Swami's excommunication did nothing to stop it. Well, he said to himself, every squirrel has his day, and now for every Congress member the interest will go up to 18 and 20%. And no kind words either, my sons, and no getting away from law courts. Prayalingya has his big bund field in Mogis, and if he does not pay up this harvest time, he will have not a rag wide left, and there will be no accepting. Just a week, master, just a week more, say 10 days, and this gold flour in guarantee. None of this anymore. Then there is Madanna's coconut garden and Pandit Venkateshia's babur field. Though with the Brahmin it's not such easy business. Well, every squirrel will have his day, repeated Bhatt to himself. But Temple Rangappa is still with me, and Patwari Nanjudia, and Schoolmaster Devaraiya, and of course Rama Chetty and Subha Chetty. And they are all with me and the Swami, and against all this Praya business. And there is Venkamma too. And at the thought of Venkamma, an idea came into his head like a cart light in the dark, an auspicious, happy idea, and he said, shall find a bridegroom for her daughter, and she will be always with us, and what with her tongue and her tail, she will set fire where I want. And at this Bhatt felt so happy that he began to search in his mind for this bridegroom and that bridegroom. And he said, there was Shanbhog Ramanna of Chennaihalli, and astrologer Sitaramaiya of Rampur, and then of course there was advocate Sinappa. Sinappa, Bhatt repeated to himself, he just lost his wife, and very soon when I have to go and speak about the new harvests, he will speak about marriage, and I shall say there is a fine girl in Kanthapur, and he will say, is she ripe for marriage? And I shall say she will come home in a few weeks' time, and that will do it. And Venkamma will be so happy to have an advocate for a son-in-law. After all, Venkamma, what does it matter whether it is first marriage or a second marriage? What we ask is that your daughter will have enough to eat and be blessed with many children and perform all the rites, isn't it? Sinappa is 34, but you would say he is 21 if you saw him, and he has only 3 children. And one of them is soon to be married and will go away to her mother-in-law's, and your daughter will have the 2 godlike children to live with. What do you say to that, Venkamma? And Venkamma will answer, of course, Bhattare, whatever you say will be done. And Sinappa will be so happy, after all a mother-in-law in Kanthapur and so near his wetlands too, and this Bhatt will himself perform the marriage and the Swami will bless them. That is a fine idea, concluded Bhatt, and as he went in and groped for his bed, he felt such joy rise to his heart that he woke up his wife and said, come, don't sleep. And when she muttered, oh, let me sleep, he said, oh, be a wife. And she said she was tired, but Bhatt said he was happy, and Venkamma's daughter would be married to advocate Sinappa, and she said, and what does that matter to me? Meanwhile the child woke up, and when she had rocked it to sleep again. She slipped into his bed and chattering fool that she was, she said he had never loved her as on that night, and when the morning came he rushed to the river and back and then to Venkamma's house. But there was no Venkamma yet, and he said he would come back, and he went home and was hardly seated for meditation. Then Venkamma arrives important as a buffalo, and she says, "What is it, Bhattare, that you honor us with your visit?" And Bhatt says, "Oh, nothing at all. It is only about a horoscope I have in hand, and maybe it would go with Ranga's." And Venkamma cries out, "Oh Bhattare, you will save my honor and the honor of my family if you manage it." And Bhatt says, "Oh, never mind Venkamma. After all, every pious member of the community has duties towards every other. And if your daughter was not married in time, maybe nobody will marry my daughter either." And Venkamma is so happy that she begins to weep. And Bhatta's wife comes and says, "Oh, don't weep, aunt. The will of the gods shall be done." And Venkamma rises up and says, "May Kanchamma bless you." And on her way back home she meets Rangamma, and looking away she spits behind her, and then she sees Temple Rangappa's wife Lakshamma, and she says the marriage is for Shravan, and Lakshamma says, "Then we shall have Laddu this year." And Venkamma says Laddu and Fanny, and by the evening everybody in the village says, "Venkamma's daughter Ranga has at last found a husband, sister." "Where does he come from?" asks nose scratching Nanjamma and Satamma. "Oh, it seems he is from a well-to-do family." May the goddess bless the girl. If not, what should we have seen before we closed our eyes? And people say, "Well, Venkamma is going to have a rich son-in-law." And Postmaster Surya Narayan's wife Akamma says, "My putta will sing." "For what deed in my past life have you sought me in this, my lord?" And Satamma says, "Your putta sings it so well, sister." And putta feels so pleased that she begins to hum the song to herself, twisting the wet sari. And everybody says, "Go on, putta, go on." And she begins it, and they all leave the clothes on the stones and follow her. And when she stops, Ratan, who never could sing these songs, says as though only to her mother, "I shall sing them an English song," at which Stamma says, "Enough of this. Let our marriages at least be according to the ancient ways." And Subamma and Chinnamma say they will put on the blue and broad filigree Banaras sari. And young Kamlamma says she will wear the Dharmavar sari in peacock blue, and Venkamma feels such esteem around her that she says to herself, "Oh, you widows, you will not even lick the remnant leaves in the dustbin, you polluted widows." But when the marriage day draws near, she sends her elder daughter to every house, saying, "Tell them you shall not light your kitchen fires for 1 whole week, and if you like for 10 whole days. I am not marrying my daughter to Advocate Sinappa for nothing." And everybody asks, "I think it's an advocate your sister is marrying." And Venkamma's elder daughter says, "Yes, Aranga is the most fortunate of us all. His father owns 3 villages and a coconut garden and a small coffee plantation in Mysore, and their family is called the Bell People, as his grandfather distributed holy bells to every guest that stayed with them." And Satamma says, "My daughter had not that luck." And Nanjamma says, "My daughter hadn't that luck either." But on the first day, as the bridegroom's procession came along and we all stood by the village gate with coconuts and kumkum water to welcome him, what should we see but a middle-aged man with 2 fallen teeth and a big twisted moustache. But Venkamma said he was only 25 and he had married at 17, and his elder daughter was only 7 years old. But we all knew that it came out of Venkamma's head. But Bhatt said he was only about 30, and that he earned at least 300 rupees a month, that he had 60 acres of wetland and 200 acres of dry land, and that his sisters wore half seer gold belts and diamond earrings and dharmavar sari, and that they gave the bride a full seer gold belt. And it was said they would give us a French sovereign each, and indeed every woman of Kanthapur was given a French sovereign. And what a party the marriage was, with jokes and feasts and festive lights, and we all said, this Bhatt and Venkamma are not so wicked after all. And Bhatt said to Venkamma, let everybody be well satisfied. And Venkamma said, so they shall be. And every Praya and Ka in Kanthapur was satisfied. Only Murthy wandered by the river all day long, and when dusk fell and evening came, he stole back home, hurried over the meal that Rangamma served, spread his bedding, and laid himself down, thinking, how is one an outcast? Thank you.